Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to all the viewers out there. Welcome back to the Z Connection podcast. This is episode number 2 of season 1, and it is your boy. I am the guest host for today, Bryce Pettiford. I go to Maryville University. In Maryville, I'm a 4th year. I study health science. I'm a multicultural scholar and president of the Collegiate 100. And I'm also a Kingsman here at Shalom Church, City of Peace. And for this week's podcast, we're going to be talking about all things related to church culture. So we're going to first begin with going over the history of the Black church, its traditions, and its relevance today. And we're also going to be talking about the role of women in the church and even more. So today I have the honor, the privilege, the blessing to talk to our very own pastor and friend, Dr. Reverend F. James Clark, the one and only, the legend. And he is here to guide us once again and provide some amazing insight to not only me, but the entire Gen Z youth out there. So, hey, Pastor, how are you doing today? Let's start with that.
Doing fine, Bryce. Good to see you. Good to be on again. And I am really delighted to have this opportunity to share, hopefully to move the Generation Z to a new place of understanding. At least that's my hope.
I know for a fact that you're going to do it. You've been moving the masses already, so I know we're in for a treat today. And I would like to say the pleasure is all mine to just even have the opportunity to speak with you. So, I mean, if you're ready, I got a nice set of questions ready to ask you. So if you're ready, we can get straight into it.
Yeah, let's do it, Bryce. Yeah.
All right, we're going to start off nice and light. So we all understand that the church is influential in the African-American community and culture. But I really want to know, why is that? Why is the church so impactful in the African-American culture?
The great question, by the way. The African-American church in the African-American community really is the mother of Black advancement. That historically speaking, the Black church is the only institution that Black people could call their own. And so the Black church has been everything to Black people. It's our city of refuge. It's the place where Black people learn to cast vision and to develop strategies for social change. It is the place for developing young professionals like yourself. And so that's just a little of what the Black church has done. The Black church is the place where Black people were treated with human dignity. And so I want to start with that, but I also wanted to give some readings for the audience, if you will, try reading Hospitality, an Ecclesiological Practice of Ministry by Freddie Clark. Also, Leadership Next, Changing Leaders in a Changing Culture. That's a good read. Eddie Gibbs is the author. And then The Black Church in the African American Experience, C. Eric Lincoln. I think to get a deep understanding of the significance of the Black church, those 3 suggested readings will certainly whet your appetite to move to the next level and how to embrace the significance of the Black church.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. And just to give the viewers a little insight, prior to starting the podcast, we had a little joke about the little age difference. You know, it's not too much, not too far apart. But if I may ask you, what were some of your church traditions that you had growing up, probably roughly around my age, and why were they so important in that particular time?
So some church traditions, That's another great question. So the Black church, as opposed to the other ecclesial congregations, we didn't differ when it came to our understanding communion or baptizing. That was what the church did. some things that were unique in the black experience is how we did it. That if you like sports, you know you have an announcer and then you have somebody that's a color commentator. And the black church always gave colorful expressions to whatever that we were assigned to do in the life of our faith community. And so one of the traditions, Bryce, that was uniquely ours is the call and response. That is that the preacher would say something and then the congregants would holler back at him. And it had this rhythmic flux until it made for a very exciting time in the fellowship. Several other things about the practice in the institution that I hope is not missed is that the church in community, in the black community, was the pillar along with two others. And so it was like a triad of things that helped to develop black people in the black community. That was family, schools, and then the church. And all of us lived in the same community. So people who went to school together also went to church together. And so what was being enforced in the family was also being enforced at school. And what was being enforced at school was being undergirded in the church through Sunday school and those kind of arrangements. And so it made for a very powerful community. And it further drilled down the importance of the church. And then the church made it possible to see the importance of an education and family. And so when you talk about the black church, it's kind of hard to talk about the black church without also understanding that many HBCUs come from that experience.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, and I definitely strongly agree with you talking about how the black church is a pillar and a backbone of the African American community, and how it also inspires other aspects like what is being taught in school and in the family home setting. So I know there's a little bit of a, like we said earlier, a little bit of an age difference between generations. But as you see, like especially in 2020, it's been all about progress moving forward. So there's been a new wave of newer church culture in which, you know, pastors are dressing more casually. We're seeing smaller choirs, not really those large mass choirs that we are used to back in the day, you know, growing up. Can you talk about, from a pastoral perspective, why or how the new style of church has developed, and is it really effective?
I'll do my best to try to address that. Maybe how one's dressed is a matter of their personal preference. And so I don't know if I can make the connection with the current dress code that's prevalent in the life of the church. Be that as it may, historically, Bryce, black folk dressed up going to church because it was our way of dignifying our humanity. It was also a way for us to make a public presentation when we went on a job interview. And so we didn't have the luxury to dress down, if you will. That our whole understanding of our cultural survival had to do with our always being in the mode of practicing what it is that we were hoping to become. And so that was one of the reasons why we dressed up like we did when we went to church. If I might, even for me, now, because I represent so many, it's hard for me to take a casual approach in my dress to go to the hospital or to go to a funeral service or to be in a meeting casually representing the people that I serve. And so it's for that reason that I try to be as professional as possible that I have been in the hospital several times, and I've never seen my doctor come into my room casually dressed. I have seen firemen at work, and I've never seen a fireman go to address a situation that may have needed him to be out of uniform. I've never seen an attorney represent anybody in court come in looking casual. And so there's something to be said about how far and wide the approach of being casual can go. And so I'm most comfortable being at my best when I represent the people of God and God. The other dynamics that you talked about were, say it again, Bryce.
I talked about like having larger mass choirs. We've seen like the numbers of people in the choir drastically like reduced to having smaller groups.
Yeah. So being in a choir, if you're going to do it right, is a lot of work. A lot of work. It requires that you rehearse. Churches that have what you call minister of musics won't let the people go until they get it right, because there's a musical presentation that has to be rendered. So one of the things, and I'll take a stab at it, one of the things that might happen with the move toward praise teams or smaller groups is that the demand may not be as strenuous. So that might be one of the angles. Or it just might be a preference of that church or that ministry. Maybe it doesn't have to be anything bad. I like choirs. I like all genres of music that sang in the Black church, in the Black experience. Anthems, hymns, spirituals. And if you find a choir that can do that kind of music, then you know they can do gospel. Gospel is like, you can wake Black folk up at 4:15 a.m. in the morning and ask for a gospel selection, and they can give that to you without rehearsing. It's the other genres of music that requires time. But I would say that may not be any rhyme or reason that I know about that churches have moved to smaller singing groups.
Okay, well, you definitely provided a great perspective, and I'm pretty sure that's extremely thought-provoking, especially to everyone listening. But I did have a follow-up question. Are there any traditions, like any past traditions that you feel are outdated? And are there any that you feel need to come back? I know you talked about the call and response. I personally grew up the same way, God is good all the time.
Yeah.
But are there anything like that you feel needs to be reinstated, or are there any that you feel that are outdated?
Since time doesn't stand still, it's dangerous for those of us in ministry to not honor tradition. I think we have to honor tradition and not become a traditionalist. So although time changes, the gospel doesn't. The gospel remains the same, and so it is our responsibility to find new ways to shape what we do, to repackage what we do, so that what we do might remain relevant in the tide of changing cultural currents. What changes should be the way we present, rather than the content of what's being presented.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense, and I would strongly agree as well. And I like that you said time doesn't stand still, but the church, the word of God, and the gospel will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So I know that we are progressing to a more digital age. How do you keep up with the times? Like in the room right now, I have a monitor with me. I know that probably wasn't available 5 years ago. We have things like Zoom, live podcasts, what we're doing right now, and even live streaming church.
Yeah, I stay engaged, Bryce. My whole work ethic, and this is just who I am. I stay engaged. I have attempted all of my ministry and certainly all of my life to stay prepared for, to go back to the last script, for the changing tides. And what I don't know, I locate people that I think might know and I can ask. And one of the ways that I think I have personally survived all of the many transitions is that I have not been afraid to ask for help. And God has blessed me to be around so many brilliant people like yourself that if it's something that I don't understand about the many technological gadgets, I know how to ask for that kind of help. And I have all of the gadgets. I have all of the gadgets, and I'm still learning how to use what I have. But that's a joy for me to have been able to live in two worlds: the world of that my mama and grandmama brought me up in, and now this new world of technology, and still remain on the cutting edge. I find that extremely exciting because I am no ways tired.
Oh, that's definitely good. It's definitely essential to stay up to date with everything going on, especially when you want to reach the younger generation, which is essential because there is becoming a disconnect in the church.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're able to stay up with the times. If you ever need any questions, feel free to hit me up anytime. There's plenty of youth at the church.
I certainly will.
But to go back to like what we were talking about, dressing more casually, since I remember being at church, even as a young child, it was always a come as you are nature. And I know, like you talked about back in your day, it was really, you put on your Sunday best. You have to really, look the part as well. So can you tell us what it means to you to have a more come as you are nature and why it is important to the people of the church?
So with all of and that's a broad question, I'll do my best to be concise in my answer. So with all of the dressing up that happened in the black church, we are never privileged to know when that causes a strain, and when the people who have the ability to dress up doesn't use that as something to hoard over people who cannot. So one of the challenges in ministry is that you don't create that kind of status divide in the life of the church, and so you just trust that people are comfortable enough to get past what they have on, and then understand that there's a greater reason why you're involved in this process. The other very important piece not to be missed is Shalom started in a hotel. And from the hotel, the gymnasium. And from the gymnasium, several other places. And so we didn't have time to think about that for trying to find adequate space where we could worship together and develop a stronger relationship with God as well as with each other. So that was not first and foremost on my list. Furthermore, after having organized, I was really independent and able to move away from some of those traditional aspects of the faith.
Okay, yeah, and I mean that definitely does make sense because you really just the main purpose is to come receive the word and grow spiritually. So the dress is more of an outside thing,
Yeah.
But I'm glad you talked about the growth of the church. So we're gonna, if you don't mind, we're gonna get into a little bit of a harder question.
Yeah.
We may have to dedicate a whole episode to this because especially in 2020, women's rights and women's roles, we're trying to break that, traditional gender roles and stereotypes. But can you talk about the history of women and their role in the church and maybe allude to a more progressive standpoint that Shalom Church may have?
The role of women even in the black church was that of being subservient, being submissive. And here's what I found problematic is that the same set of rules or vision casting that we would do in the black church in terms of practicing a theology of liberation, we never extended that to our sisters. And so in so many ways, the bad habits of our oppressors became ours. And so while practicing how to live in the larger context in community, we never saw how we were mistreating our sisters in the church. I know I wasn't the first, but I was amongst the first to move in the direction of breaking that curse as it relates to how we did ministry in the Shalom Church. Now, Bryce, I'll be honest with you, it caused me a lot of pain in the larger fellowship with my brothers, because that was just a no-no back then. But it was something that I was willing to do because I was convinced it was right. That biblically speaking, that the first person to carry the good news about the resurrection of Jesus were women. When they got to the tomb and found that he was not there, and the angel told them to go and tell that to the disciples, that was their assignment. So the disciples found out that Jesus had risen because the women told the story first. And so if you recall our communion service that used to be male oriented, male dominated, that's the wrong picture for how you serve in the body of Christ. And so we have both men and women that serve communion. We have men and women who preach. And so I hope that I have found balance in the message and ministry that the Lord has given me, that there is no male or female as it relates to how we do the Lord's work. And it's a broad question. It's deep historically, but I can only do what needs to be done from the space and time that God has given me to work in the field.
Oh, we definitely want to applaud you for it, especially taking a stand, because that is also something that I would like to see moving forward be more universal, especially in the Black community and Black churches, because Black women matter, and we have seen that, especially given the time we're living in with all the social justice issues that we are under. So I mean, like we said earlier, the church is influential in our family, our education, and multiple aspects. So I feel like women being treated and viewed as equal, especially in the church, will spread over to other aspects of our lives.
Yeah, I am.
So
If just one more thing about that, my sensitivity to stuff like that, no doubt in my mind comes because I was raised in a matriarchal situation, that my mother and grandmother raised me and my siblings. And so I had a front row seat at all of the many unequal disadvantages that women had to face. And so when I'm operating in ministry, although it may be hard for others to define why I do what I do in moving toward those who are unable to find their own voice, then it is because my starting point was with my mother and grandmother, who had no voice, who were always overlooked, but always asked to do something that would make somebody else's day be a little lighter and brighter. So I think that's a big part of how I was able to see and then move on that picture of inequality that was not right in the life of the church. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I definitely can relate as well. Growing up in a single parent household with just my mother, raising 5 children, taking care of them, providing, and also teaching me and my brother how to be a man. I mean, it's honestly like women are doing heroic things, and they often go overlooked. Like, I don't know anybody else that could teach somebody to be something that they're not. Like, teach a boy to be a man, things like that. But we often overlook them, like you said. But they're doing 10 times the work that men are doing.
I mean, heroic. It is amazing It is amazing the strength that black women have. It is, you're right, we could do a whole nother show on just lifting the heroic contributions of black women, Coretta Scott King, Rosa Parks. You know, we have a whole civil rights movement that was put into play because Rosa Parks says, I'm not moving today. I mean, So when you really look at it, there is no black church without black women. There is no black ethnicity without black women who've had to swallow hard and take the punishment for our survival.
Strongly agree. There is no New Testament, there is no church, there is no salvation through God, because without the Virgin Mary, we wouldn't have Jesus Christ. And that is a Virgin Mary, so that means 100% from women. Didn't even have to, no man really played a role in Jesus's being brought to the earth, because it was a Virgin Mary. So literally everything we have in the church is off the backbone of women. So definitely all the queens listening to this, we want to applaud you. We definitely see you out here.
Standing ovation.
Exactly.
Standing ovation. Yeah.
Of course. But for the sake of time, we're going to move to the last question that I had planned out. And it's really just a broad question. We just want to hear your opinion of what do you really think of the black church and its culture today?
That there has been, great question. There's been a lot of shifts in the culture with which, in my opinion, the black church has not been able to keep up with. That has to do with leadership, has nothing to do with the institution, has everything to do with who is in the helm during the time of transitions. Because if you don't catch the shift, you're gonna get left behind. And so in many ways, I can critique the black church because I'm a part of it. And I love the black church. And I still think, even with the many shifts that may have been missed by people who are giving leadership in the black church and in the black community, that the black church is still the cradle that rocks the baby. And my hope is that when prodigals come back home, we need to be in place, preaching a relevant word and not standing to critique and criticize, but let's move on so that the next generation can pass the baton.
Definitely agree. And that's also important to staying up to date with the culture, which we definitely do a great job of, Pastor Clark. But I just want to personally thank you, and I want to thank you on behalf of all the viewers who were blessed today with hearing your insight and the many gems that you just really dropped on us that we would take with us moving forward. So I definitely just want to say thank you. Should applaud you for your amazing work, and we look forward to the amazing work that you will continue to do, a blessing the lives of many youth like me. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Yeah, Bryce, let me just say before I get off here, I am so proud of you and the work that your family has done to bring you to this point. I mean, I rejoice. I saw the article the other week of you in the paper, and I'm just, yeah, that this is what I live for. This is when I see you and know the work that your family has put into giving you this foundation. But listen, the sky is the limit. I want to encourage you that don't stop at nothing, that whatever it is that you're striving to be, all you got to do is stay on this path because it's already in you. It's already in you. And I am so proud of you. And I think I speak for everybody that's a part of the Shalom Church family.
Oh, that's a blessing. Thank you. And that's just an honor to even hear that coming from you. But thank you so much. And I really wouldn't be who I am without hearing your word, being just a part of the Shalom Church community, honestly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We got some more work to do. We're going to get it done together.
Oh, yeah, the work never stops. Never stops. But thank you again. And it's been honestly a pleasure, a privilege, and a treat. We'll see you, Pastor Clark.
Okay. See you, Bryce. Love you.
Love you as well. All right. Hello, all the Gen Zers out there. Please do not forget to follow us on Twitter, the Z Connection Podcast, and use the hashtag the Z Connection, and continue to listen to our conversations and all of our episodes that we put out. And we love to hear your feedback and any questions that you may have or anything that you may want to hear moving forward. You never know, your questions may be featured on here and we might have a special guest reading it like me. So please check us out, and also check out Shalom Church City of Peace website and our latest album by Dr. F. James Clark. And it's Dr. F. James Clark presents the Shalom Church and Friends Victorious. It is on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever you use to listen to music, YouTube as well. So please check us out. And remember to stay blessed.